Hey guys, and welcome to episode 30 of the Great Farm Cleanup series. Even though I'm in my shed at home, we're going to unbox some crates of stuff from the farm. I have been to the farm this week. We went over on Sunday evening and it's now Wednesday we got back. The sad news is that we did lose Dad on Monday morning, so it was expected and we're glad that he didn't go on suffering, but it's not easy. So this episode, we'll go through some stuff from the farm. I'll talk about Dad a bit more towards the end, given that a lot of you people that watch my videos are not even subscribed. You probably stumbled across this video and thought, who's this guy? What's he doing? You don't know my dad at all, and you're not interested probably, but quite a few of your regulars have been following and know the story and have wished him well. So we'll talk about that at the end. Let's have a look in this crate and just see what sort of stuff I have been getting out of Dad's shed at the farm. As you would appreciate, I didn't really feel like filming at the farm this week, but we must forge ahead. I'm not in denial. It's, as I said, it was expected, and in some respects we're very relieved that he's no longer suffering. Well, in most respects we are. So I hope you don't find it disrespectful that I'm going on with my videos, but you know, it's also a coping mechanism, I guess, if we're honest. So let's have a look what's in these tubs. And there's a couple of great big gears. That's looks like International Harvester colour that's faded somewhat. This is probably a drive sprocket from one of the old headers. I don't think it's scrap metal. I think it has a better use than that. It'll be a good base plate to mount something on. A bit of I do sell a lot of this sort of stuff through the shop for people that are making metal sculptures, so much better than scrap value there. There's also another one here which is off an early binder, a Reaper binder, and it has the square link chain on it. I don't think I've got any here, but again, that's either maybe a good stand for a lamp. Needs a very good cleanup, but it would actually be a good base for a lamp. So better than scrap price again. In the bottom here we have a gate latch. Now this is actually a HV McKay Sunshine gate latch. They sell for pretty good money, these things. It's a double acting one, so you can have the gate swing from either side. And I would say that's probably a $50 latch. We will clean that one up for the shop. And we have a couple of short lengths of chain, some of which will sell quite well. That nice old rusty chain would look good in someone's fernery hanging plants off it. Sometimes I box it up if they're all little lengths like this, but some of the longer lengths I can get $5 each for. So we'll do a bit of a tally up at the end of this crate and see what value we've got. That's a cap off a fence post, and that looks like solder, so we'll probably use that. Let's get this crate out of here. We can take that back to the farm and fill it up next time we're over there. Okay, let's get into these tubs. Now these are tubs that I've just had on the workbench in the shed while I've been sorting through, and anything that's remotely interesting or is just better than scrap, or sometimes even bits of scrap like a piece of copper pipe, I'll throw in here to bring back to sort out here because it takes too long to sort it all out over there. There's a nice old rustic hinge. If there's two of those, they would make an excellent lid on a wood box or something like that. That's part of a pressure gauge, a tyre pressure gauge, but it looks like the end's broken. Maybe it's not. That should slide out unless it's seized up. There we go. So there's a fair chance that tyre pressure gauge works. These are the ones that you just put on the tyre, and whatever pressure is in the tube will force this bar out and you can read it off. They're not super accurate, but yeah, I think that's at least $5. We have some pincers here that I'll clean up, but they've got good blades on them, they meet well. They're going to be $5, I'd suggest. Don't think they're going to be branded, but they'll clean up quite well. Some door hardware. Sometimes I keep this just purely because it's of its scrap value. Pretty hard to sell some of these, and a magnet will soon tell us that they're not ferrous, so it's likely to be nickel plated brass, although I think this handle might be a die cast zinc or something. So you know, sometimes I will put them in a box with hardware, other times I'll throw them in the scrap bins. Just depends how much I've got to process. That looks to be a broken towel rail end, and it looks to be brass. And there's a bit of wire on it that's clearly steel. So we'll cut that off. We'll run a file across it to see if it's brass, but I think it would be. There are numerous old door handles from cars. That one's been ground down. I don't know why. It's been used for something that wasn't its original purpose. That one looks like a much earlier one. It could have even been off. We used to have an old Austin on the farm, a 1920s era Austin. Maybe that's what it suits. Some of you car guys might recognise that. I think they're quite saleable. I might put them in the shop at $5 each. And that one's, I think that one matches that one. And they might have been early Ford ones. I'm not sure. You guys could probably tell me that. Although I stand to be corrected by reading Holden on the back of it. So that's a Holden one. And therefore I would imagine that one is. Don't know what models. But I think well, that one certainly will have some value. And a lot of those I've often put in the shop and just have, you know, vintage car parts. And I figure the customers will know what they suit. Piece of copper pipe. That's probably copper or brass. We'll have to get the file going in a minute. Piece of aluminium. Wooden doorknobs. I think that's quite a modern one. I tend to keep the older ones, but maybe not the modern ones. That's a little brass tap from probably a Victor lawnmower. Would have had a filter on that end and a fitting on there. Maybe not necessarily Victor, but it's a fuel tap from an early small engine. We have some brass fittings as well. So lots of bits of scrap in here. Don't know what that is. It looks like it's a cast aluminium. More copper and brass. Alright, I might sort out the scrap at the end. I'm not sure what that's... Oh, I think that's for a tyre puncture repair. You've got that serrated area which you rough up the tyre, or the tube I should say. You need to rough it up for the glue to actually help stick. And then once you put the patch over it, you use these little wheels to roll back and forth over the patch. That's how I remember patching a pneumatic tube. A bit bigger than a bicycle one. Cast aluminium handle from a tap. We have various pulleys, probably from old blinds and things. There's a big heavy piece of brass. I don't remember what that's off. No idea. A file handle. A little string level. So you just hang that on a string. And if you have the string tight enough, it'll tell you if it's level. More scrap. We have some large brass wood screws, which I do sell. I think I get much better money for those for what they are rather than for scrap brass. So I'll put all those in a jar. I have a lot of old square nuts. I do tend to keep some of the square nuts because they really suit old machinery when you're restoring old machinery. So I have kept a lot of those. I'll put those in a jar. There's a double-ended plug. We had one of these recently that was missing the top cover, but that's a complete one. It's Australian brand, but it's JJ Holle, Hoelle. I haven't actually heard of that brand before. Oh, it says Utilux. I think, yeah, Utilux. So maybe he was a retailer. Australian made piggyback plug, you would call that. I always get $5 for that cleaned up. These are loops for the end of a steel cable. I don't know if they'll have a market. I guess they would. More copper and brass, more pulleys, a few random keys at the bottom. More brass, piece of lead. Alright, nothing else exciting. Oh, there's some circlips for a lawnmower. That's all that's in that one. Let's sort it into piles and then we'll start on another tin. Okay, I've made some room. Let's get into this tin. There's our solder. We'll put that in the other workshop. That will be handy. We had some of these pipe fittings the other day and we've got more of these fence post caps. In fact, there's quite a few of those. So I'll stack them separately. More brass fittings. There are some air fittings here, which, yeah, look, I don't keep them all, but sometimes it's handy to have some of these fittings, particularly when I do have to set up an air compressor in the workshop. That's not the right connector, those that I use, but I will keep some air fittings for now. If I end up with too many, they'll go in the brass scrap. That looks like a near new radiator cap. So yeah, doesn't look damaged at all. The rubber's still quite soft. Just needs a bit of a wash up. I think we'll probably nearly get $5 for those. I don't know how much it costs to buy a radiator cap these days. Some hose clamps, that's a new one. There's a threading tap. So I'm going to have lots of these from the huge workshop clean out we did as well. That's a Whitworth thread, so we'll keep that for now. I will eventually sort these out. I don't need to keep hundreds of them here, but I'd like to hang on to them until I know what I've got. That's a very small thermostat, possibly out of a motorbike or something like that. It's been used, so you certainly wouldn't put a used thermostat back in an engine. It's probably mostly brass. No, well, there's a spring in there which is magnetic. I think we'll just put that straight in irony brass. A little cable clamp. That's the end of a spray nozzle. It's mostly brass. It's probably got a steel fitting there, yes, but the rest of it's brass. We'll just take the fitting off. There's a hole saw. Only one. Maybe the rest of the set's still at the farm. I better put that aside. Random hardware. A little right angle drive gearbox. Approximate ratio 1 to 2. So, oh yeah, it works too. What could I possibly use that for? Mounting bolt on the back, right angle drive gearbox. I think that needs to go in my box of random bits and pieces in here for one day. It might be exactly what I need. Look, I can't keep too much of that sort of stuff, but it is handy to have a well-stocked junk box with random things when you're making stuff. I could always turn around and sell it and probably get $10 for it, but I might just hang on to that. It's pretty cool. A hammerhead. That's possibly branded too. It has got a brand on the side. Can't quite read that. Oh, Braids. So that's an English, fairly well-known English company that made a lot of hand tools, and I don't know if they made axes. I know they made rabbit trap setters and adzes and that sort of stuff. That's in good condition. Yeah, very good. Oh, look, I don't know if it's ever been used. There's no marks to the hammer. I think we'll buff that up. We could get $10 for that. Let's tip the rest out. Mostly hardware, I think. More brass fittings. A glass cutter. They're just brass. What's that got? A bit of... I don't know. It's probably got copper around it, so that can just go with the brass. More hose clamps. General hardware. Some springs. We'll just sort all this into various groups. There's an old, looks like a Toyota key. That's brass, but the rest of it isn't. A bit of aluminium. That's a wedge for fitting like an axe head to a handle or a block splitter. So that's the wedge that you put in the top to swell the handle to hold the head on. I will keep those because I'm often putting handles back on things. A push-pull switch. Yeah, well, I have a tub of switches in the shop. Only $2 each or something, but they do sell quite well. So nothing exciting in here. There's a air fitting for blowing up tyres. These little, I don't know what these clips are called. They're spring-loaded clips. You use them on farm machinery quite a lot. So I think I've got a jar of them in the shop as well. Washers, there's another hole saw. So we'll keep those in case the rest of the set's still at the farm. A large bronze bush, that can just go with the brass. Wood bolts, tech screws, little fittings for a drill. A chuck key from a small drill. Another brass key. Okay, nothing exciting in here. Some fuse wire. I'll sort all this and add to our piles we had before, and we'll get into the next tin. I've cleared a bit of space now. Let's get into the next tin, but our space is rapidly decreasing. But we'll get it sorted. This one looks like, oh goodness, a lot of hardware in here. Bit of everything. Sometimes I just swept interesting stuff into a tin without any thought other than I'll sort that later on. Quite a lot of screws and usable hardware. There's a chain link with a, oh, it still turns. So that's a chain link that you can actually open. Sorry, I was probably out of shot there. It's a shackle that you can open. So handy for joining chains, and even as a gate latch, or I think they use things like that when they're abseiling or climbing. Mind you, I think I'd not trust a rusty one out of a farm shed, but it's still useful. Lots of general hardware here. There's a light globe that looks okay. A cotter pin or a split pin that's been well and truly mangled. I think they can just go in our heavy steel. A big brass, looks like a one-way valve, and that looks like it's never been used. So I think that's probably better value than just brass. We should be able to sell that. Some battery terminals we'll just scrap out for brass. Bit of more solder. Yeah, rusty razor blade. We better be careful with that one. So yeah, not much here at all really. A couple more keys, but basically just hardware. So I'll sort all this, and then we just have one more to go through, which looks like a few more car handles and some bigger bolts, so that shouldn't take long. The last tub to go through now for this video, we have an empty jar, which will be handy. I'll use that in a second. We have some more handles from vehicles. That's probably 1960s and maybe Ford. Not sure. My guessing hasn't been too accurate. That one is very familiar. It might have been off a car, or I had maybe a 70s Holden. Don't quite remember. I'm probably just going to put $5 each on these. I will give them a little bit of a clean up. That looks like the stem from a mirror. Unlikely to be of any value to anyone. Let's see what it's made from. It was non-magnetic. It's probably brass. We'll take the nut off the end. Yeah, so both ends have ferrous, but the centre is probably brass, so we'll strip that out. Another little threading tap. We've got a few of them now. A nozzle from a caulking gun. Well, that's unused. I'll throw that in a box in my shed here because I use those. We've got some large bolts, and these are clearly never been used. They've been purchased in more recent times. They've got a barcode on them. Zenith. So they can just go in with our heavy hardware. There's a few of those actually. And some heavy washers. Dad must have purchased these at some stage for perhaps putting a machinery shed together. He did build a few sheds on the farm over the years. And we have a bit of chain. Let's just tip this one out. Oh, there's an old brass tap washer. Another ignition switch. Now I had one of those before that I pulled a few bits off it. I kind of figure that second-hand ignition switches have obviously been removed from, I would say that's a tractor one. They've obviously been removed from the vehicle because they were faulty. No one's going to take off a perfectly good ignition switch and replace it with a new one if there wasn't something wrong with the old one. And of course the big problem when farmers have lots of sheds and lots of room to store things, they never get round to throwing things out, and you end up with defective parts sitting around that are really no good to anyone. So I think probably what I'll do is I'll keep the key. We'll take that nut off. It's probably brass. It's non-magnetic. And the rest of it can probably just go in with our irony aluminium. It's actually a die-cast zinc or something, but it can just go in irony aluminium. So we'll get some return on it. I'm not going to try and muck around testing them or fixing them because I can't get much for them anyway, secondhand. And there's a fair chance they just simply don't work. Alright, we have some tools and bits and pieces here. There's a brass tap body, so our brass pile's growing. A heavy brass bolt. Well, I don't sell brass hardware for scrap. I'll put that in a separate jar. A large Allen key. We have a few other Allen keys I've found. More heavy hardware. Some more air fittings. So we'll keep some of those. A brass water pipe fitting. A bit of chain. A clamp that's still okay. A bushing that's probably brass as well. Not sure what's in this. There's something in this tin. I can't read what that says, so I don't know what it was, but there's something in here. Let's check it out. I'll have to get a screwdriver to get that one open. Hopefully, oh yeah, we might be able to open it here without stabbing ourselves. Don't think it's been opened for a long, long time. Oh, okay, some little washers. Some grub screws, a little spring. It's just hardware, nothing exciting. A couple of little brass bits. Not sure, they probably suited a particular job and they were put in here for safekeeping, but they're just going in my normal hardware jars for now. A little bit of insulated copper wire. Some more tap washers. They would be seatbelt bolts from a vehicle. That's it looks like a temperature sensor from an engine. That's mostly just steel. A little bit of brass on top. Yeah, that can just go with our heavy steel. A spanner here, quite rusty. It isn't anything flash, I don't think. I still can't read it. I think it's out of a toolkit of a car or something. Can't really make anything out. It's a metric spanner, probably just in the $1 box. Some little vernier calipers, they're pretty cool. They will clean up okay. They don't look damaged, just a bit rusty. Yeah, we'll give them a clean up. Another brass fitting. Some more keys. Another Allen key. Alright, so we've got some circlip pliers here. Yeah, a little bit butchered on the ends there. They can be reshaped. So they're going to sell for a bit probably. I think they're a pretty good brand. They're chrome vanadium. So they wouldn't have been cheapies. I think we'd probably, might still get $5 for those and someone might fix the ends up. That's the remains of a brass screw. Okay, nothing else really exciting here. Let me just organise it all. I'll clean up a few things and we'll do a bit of a list. And here's a view of all the stuff we got out of that one crate. It's amazing how much stuff was in there actually. Took a while to sort it all out, but we got it done. This end's mostly the scrap metal. Didn't add up to very much. The lead I actually won't sell for scrap. I'll keep here because I will melt it at some stage down the track. And the keys, I did pull out some different keys. Some of these are Lockwood ones, which I do sell separately in groups on eBay. There's an old Ford key. I tend to keep car ignition keys Holden Ford mainly because I put them on a little key ring and they do sell. These other ones, the brass ones and just the steel ones, will go in jars and we sell them per ½ kilo. Little bits of stuff I didn't weigh up, not worth it for those little things. The best of the scrap was, of course, the brass. We had not far short of 2 kilos of brass there. The little heavy melt steel here, I did throw that drill chuck key in there because it was pretty worn. I think one of the teeth were broken, so a bit of copper. So that's all the scrap. Cleaned up a few other things. These little brass taps polished up quite nicely just on the wire wheel. We'll go $5 each on those. The braid's hammerhead looks magnificent. You can see it's nicely marked there on the side. And I doubt it may have been used. There's a couple of little marks on it, but yeah, it's a beautiful piece. I'll put $10 on that. The pincers cleaned up well. We went 5 there. Just cleaned up a little bit of stuff. It makes it easier to sell. And I have changed my mind on the little gearbox. Look, 99% chance I would never use it, and that sort of stuff does clutter up my shed. I'm going to put $10 on it in the shop. The Bakelite plug cleaned up quite well. That spanner, I couldn't work it out because I didn't recognise it. It actually says Long, L-O-N-G. I think it's Japanese. I think it was possibly like a Toyota car kit or something. Don't see much value in that. I don't think I priced it separately. The best thing of the whole lot was the HVMK gate latch. Really nice, original condition, lovely patina, and it's a $50 item. So that's a nice find. The car handles cleaned up well, but I think they're still only $5 each. A lot of sundry things that'll just go in the $1 box, and the stuff in the corner is what I'm keeping for now. There's the chain and the sprockets. We just went $5 each on those. It would make an excellent lamp base, but I'm not going to put it aside. We'll try and sell it if we can. If it doesn't sell, I know where to find it. The hardware, I've sorted everything 5/16 size and bigger, and everything less, so 1/4 inch and smaller. And I put these in jars, and I get $5 per ½ kilo of small hardware. I will sort it into screws and I'll categorize it into different jars, but it's around about the same price. And for the heavier stuff, I'll go $5 per kilo, and it sells quite well through the shop. So that's enough chatter. Let's get to the notepad. The scrap, as you can see, didn't price out very much except for the brass. That was the best of the scrap. So, yeah, not far short of $20 worth of scrap. Then the hardware, the keys. I've got a rate based on $20 a kilo for brass hardware, and I went the same on keys. We're going to sell it in like half-kilo lots, so $10. It seems to sell really well. I just explained about the small and the large hardware as well. The little gearbox, I said $10. Everything else as mentioned there. And we flick, there's $106 there, and we flick over the page, and we got a total of $231 possible return. I think I mentioned all that stuff. Basically, yep. So sundries, because there was a lot of stuff that will just go in the $1 box, including these caps, $1 each for those. Little bits and pieces here. And there's lots of other sundries that I didn't even bring into calculations. That's only a single bolt, but it's a stainless steel one, and I'll have a jar for those. Light globes, fuses. That's a key. I think it's called a Woodruff key. Springs, grub screws. I didn't allow anything for those. I'll just put them in respective jars. And that's the stuff over there that I'll keep here and use. So there we go. A really good potential return from one milk crate of sundries from the farm. So guys, I hope you enjoyed that. It's an episode of the Great Farm Cleanup whilst not at the farm. It's going through some of the stuff I'm bringing back here. There's not going to be a lot of cleanups at the farm for a little while. We have to go back next Monday. It's now Thursday. Dad passed away on Monday, early Monday morning, just gone. So next Monday we're having a small family, just a private family memorial get-together, whatever you call it. We're not doing a funeral. We're not doing a service. Dad didn't want any fuss. So we're going to get together next Monday. And then a couple of weeks later, we're going to do an open invite, similar thing, an afternoon tea at the mechanics hall, at the big hall in town, where people can come and pay their respects and catch up with family. And well, there'll be a few speakers. I'll probably say something, and you know, it's just a way for everyone to say goodbye to him. It's an emotional time. It's funny, the first few days, even the Monday when we found out, it's well, I think we're all just really relieved because he was in so much pain, and it was traumatic for all of us to see him like that, and no doubt it was traumatic for him. So we felt, I certainly felt a sense of relief, and he was at peace then, and you know, Mum didn't have to go over every day and see him struggle. So that's good. Now, a few days later, I guess I'm feeling a little bit more sad about it, because the reality is we won't see him again. But you know, he's with us. Whatever your beliefs are, 85's a good innings. He, up until only a few months back, he was still doing things on the farm, and someone pointed out, he was in a scrap run video with me. I think Jason pointed out that it wasn't that long ago he was actually throwing scrap metal out of the van with me down in Melbourne. So, you know, if I was off at 85 and being active right up to that, I think I'd take it. So there we go. What more can I say? I thought I'd keep all you guys updated, because a lot of you have been very kind with your thoughts and best wishes. And I've said all this at the end of this video because most new people won't have got through to the end of the video. A lot of people, I think, only watch the first couple of minutes and then go and watch another video. But for you loyal, regular subscribers, I really appreciate your support, and I felt I owed it to you to give you an update of what's happening. We're all coping pretty well, considering Mum's forging ahead like a trooper, as she does. No doubt the quiet moments with family not around and when she's on her own will be tough for her. She will be moving over to Ngambia. It's about 4 hours from here to Matoa. So she will actually be relocating here, because my brother's only an hour down the road in Melbourne, or an hour and a half, and all her grandkids are around here. So I think that will be easier for her, but it will be difficult for her to live in town after 60 years on a farm. Challenges, but I'm sure we'll overcome them. So that's all I've got to report in this video. If you like this unpacking of the farm stuff, I might do a few more of those. I'll continue my normal unpacking of the emergency storage shed, and I've got some projects to get back on here when I've got some time. So thanks for watching again, guys. Bit of a drawn out video, bit of a longer chat at the end, but I know some of you will appreciate it. So I'll catch you in the next video. Bye for now.